he's ever seen.
Thousands of more asylum seekers arriving here, waiting for a place to sleep and a fresh start tonight.
Police are looking for 2 more migrants in connection with that brutal attack on 2 NYPD officers last.
Well, 2 more suspects have been arrested in connection to that brutal attack on 2 NYPD officers over the weekend.
To grant migrants in the city and other places legal status so they can apply for work.
And police put out those 2 pictures of those 2 additional suspects in the hope that a member of the public recognized them.
Alvin Bragg is really a disgrace as a district attorney.
Attack on NYC police. A group of migrants who were freed on bond allegedly attacked police officers in Times Square, New York City. And this has caused a political uproar before U.S. elections. The incident from last weekend was allegedly carried out by at least 12 people. There are 6 people in custody. Of them, 5 were freed on bond, while the other 4 are still on the loose. 1 is still incarcerated. Ahead of the U.S. general election in November 2024, immigration is a contentious topic. Since 2021, there have been over 6.3 million illegal immigration entries into the U.S., unprecedented numbers that may have an impact on Democratic President Joe Biden's chances of winning re-election. The altercation started on Saturday night, when 3 officers from the New York Police Department tried to disperse an unruly group of men outside a Midtown Manhattan migrant shelter. CCTV footage showed attackers attacking the men as the officers attempted to apprehend one of the males. Only minor wounds were sustained by the policemen. Republicans and some Democrats have joined forces to demand the deportation of the suspects as the outrage surrounding the Times Square altercation has grown in recent days. The Democratic governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, declared that law enforcement had to acquire them all and return them. She told reporters, "You don't touch our police officers. You don't touch anybody." In the U.S., attacking a police officer is a federal offense that carries the possibility of deportation. One Republican congressman, Nicole Maliotakis, stated, "It is absolutely disgusting that people who are in this country, who are being housed by the taxpayers, would turn around and disrespect our laws and our law enforcement." Staten Island is a borough of New York City. Republicans in New York are urging the governor to stop the migrant influx by deploying National Guard troops to the U.S. borders with Canada and Mexico.
A horrific attack, and it was all caught on camera. Police ultimately put the surveillance video of that attack.
Police are looking for 2 more migrants in connection with that brutal attack on 2 NYPD officers last.
Individuals who was arrested is a 24-year-old man by the name of Yorman Rebrin, who was also arrested twice to be under fire for his handling of this case. And there's also growing calls for him to be removed from office.
The incident has angered the New York Police Department as well. The biggest police union in New York, the Police Benevolent Association, has its president, Patrick Henry, wondering why the other suspects were let go. The sole immigrant who is still being held in custody on charges of complicity in the attack is Yo Henry Brito, 24. A judge decided on Thursday to place Mr. Brito under $15,000 bond on charges of second-degree attack and impending government operations. While more evidence is being gathered, the other suspects were freed, according to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The New York Post says that 4 of the accused had escaped on a bus headed for California, citing law enforcement sources.
Well, 2 more suspects have been arrested in connection to that brutal attack on 2 NYPD officers over the weekend.
Officers last month near Times Square. This as questions remain about how DA Alvin Bragg has handled the case.
Alvin Bragg is really a disgrace as a district attorney.
And police put out those 2 pictures of those 2 additional suspects in the hope that a member of the public recognized them.
In Times Square on Saturday night. His arraignment just wrapped up and he's being held on a $15,000 bail.
Protecting migrants. According to a federal lawsuit filed this month, Some National Guard members and publicly contracted relief workers tasked with caring for people who sought asylum in New York are instead accused of physically abusing migrant women and children, attacking at least one shelter guest violently, and generally placing the newcomers in subpar conditions. The suit, which is seeking nearly $10 million and a jury trial, claims that the majority of the incidents in this sanctuary state occurred at the Quality Inn in Cheektowaga, close to the Buffalo Niagara International Airport, where contentious New York City contractor DocGo established a humanitarian emergency relief and response center for asylum seekers. According to the lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York, in one instance, a National Guard sergeant drove a migrant mother and her kids over 2 hours away to a rented home, where he demanded that she perform physical favors in exchange for helping her and her family. The federal complaint claims that Jane Doe, who had traveled through rivers, through jungles, and around physical traffickers in Mexico, suddenly found herself in a snow-covered rural property in America, where she was totally isolated with her children, facing pressure from a member of the NY National Guard for intimacy. The lawsuit alleges that in other incidents, a DocGo manager strangled a migrant man, a National Guard member grabbed an adolescent girl, and children's bodies were frequently bitten by insects from their infected mattresses.
That they are at a breaking point. I mean, how much more can not just New Yorkers, but Americans who are seeing this
inflation to grant migrants in the city and other places legal status so they can apply for work.
A leader of a city like New York should be using divisive language that's going to be putting a target on the back.
City officials to improve information gathering on the migrants they have in their custody at these shelters.
And so if anyone that states bringing 70,000 people to a city.
After the company's handling of migrant affairs and finances came under increased city attention, the New York Attorney General's office opened an investigation into DocGo last summer. Fully cooperative and totally transparent with our regulating bodies, including the AG, was the pledge made at the time by its CEO. CEN has inquired about an update on the probe from the AG's office. Hochul started sending National Guard troops to motels in Erie County, Cheektowaga, where some recent arrivals had been taken after arriving in New York City, after a spike in migration at the U.S. southern border during the summer of last year. According to the suit and press releases from the Erie County District Attorney's Office, the military deployment was meant as a stabilizing presence in reaction to a public outcry over at least 2 incidents of suspected physical abuse by recent newcomers in the area. More than 2,100 members of the National Guard serve statewide in the capacity as migrant support workers, according to DER. According to Peter Anderson, a spokesman for Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz, roughly 540 migrants are presently being housed at 3 hotels in Erie County as part of DocGo's program, CNN reported on Tuesday. Requests for comment from CNN were not immediately answered by the offices of the New York AG and the Mayor's Office of Immigration Affairs in New York City. Allegations of inappropriate relationships. The federal suit alleges that 2 high-ranking officials at a relief center in Cheektowaga, New York, engaged in inappropriate relationships with migrants that became more open and unabashed around Halloween of 2023. Both were seen dancing intimately and romantically kissing guests during a Halloween party staff hosted for guests, though DocGo subcontractor staffers named as plaintiffs in the suit expressed concern to their superiors about these interactions. No action was taken, and the inappropriate relationships became more part of accepted daily life, according to the lawsuit. Colin acknowledged engaging in a flirtation with one woman but said he never crossed any physical lines. He also denied sending inappropriate text messages to her daughter, another allegation in the lawsuit. A subcontractor worker at the relief center in Cheektowaga reported inappropriate relationships between National Guardsmen and guests which included physical communications with minors. The suit states she was fired because she had to become too emotionally involved with the guests, despite her efforts to address the grave issues plaguing the facility. Interaction with migrants became so extreme that NY National Guardsmen were allowed to transport guests from the Cheektowaga Relief Center to the nearby hotel where the guardsmen were staying. The suit also notes the guests were and remain particularly vulnerable given their uncertain immigration status, lack of mobility, need of basic supplies, and other needs. The suit states,
he's ever seen.
Thousands of more asylum seekers arriving here, waiting for a place to sleep and a fresh start tonight.
Over and over, I've asked for resources to step up action at the border. In October, I asked Congress to fund.
The Biden administration could be considering everything from making sure that the migrants are protected when they do go to work and not exploited.
To sleep out here, they were each given a ticket with a number on it to mark their spot in line for intake.
Nunez Colon and others exploited these vulnerabilities. The suit states, crime inside the Cheektowaga Relief Center was common, according to the lawsuit, which highlights a November incident in which Nunez, the DACO manager of day-to-day affairs, entered the room forcefully with several security guards and Colon. They arrived just after an argument between Venezuelan asylum seeker Florangeles Flor Maria Cabrera Medina and her spouse Alexander Jose Vizcaino Marufo, who was kicked out of the relief center after Nunez contacted Cheektowaga police about the incident into the Buffalo winter. More generally, asylum seekers under DACO's care were deceived by its employees into traveling 8 hours to Buffalo and other places far from New York City after they were told they were being taken only a short distance away from the nation's most populous city. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.